Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me today is Jay Huseman. Welcome to the show, Jay.
Thank you, Sharon, and we're going to talk about the second race of the 2026 Cup season. I know Daytona is what it is, and everybody says, well, we'll get them next week. Well, it is next week because it is now on to the EchoPark Automotive Speedway.
Yes, indeed, and definitely looking forward to that. I think there's a lot to look forward to with the racing overall this weekend. I will tell you, Autotrader 400 at EchoPark Speedway will take place Sunday, February the 22nd. The track is a 1.54-mile asphalt paved oval. The race starts at about 3 p.m. Eastern time on Fox and Fox Deportes at that same time. Radio coverage, you'll find that on PRN and Sirius XM Channel 90. And also they'll be racing that distance at 400.4 miles over 260 laps. First stage is 60 laps ending on lap 60. Second stage is 100 laps ending on lap 160. And the final stage is also 100 laps ending on lap 260. Where are you going to watch everything this week? Well, Saturday, actually, the NASCAR O'Reilly Series will have their Continental Pole qualifying on the CW app at 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday, but their race is on Saturday starting at 5 p.m. on the CW network. For the Cup Series, they have their Busch Light Pole qualifying on Prime TV, PRN, and Sirius XM starting at 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then the truck race starts at 1:30 p.m. on FS1. Now, Sunday is the race, as we mentioned earlier, starting at 3 p.m. on Fox. So, Jay, we've got a lot to talk about here. Let's start with the entry list.
I know we got the 36 chartered teams, and going by memory, I believe it's the 44 NY Racing with J.J. Yaley, and then the 78 Live Fast machine of B.J. McLeod. And that is correct. Those are the two open teams listed, the 44 of J.J. Yaley and the 78 of B.J. McLeod, to go with your 36 full-time chartered team.
Okay. Next up, we have stats or numbers, I guess, to tie into what's happening at Atlanta Motor. Actually, it's not Atlanta Motor Speedway. It's EchoPark Speedway. It's the 9th race since the reconfiguration. They've had 7 straight last lap passes for a win on drafting tracks and 6 passes for the win in the final 2 laps at the new Atlanta. And then 19 consecutive draft track races led by Joey Logano. So some interesting stats there.
And I can add a little bit to that. That is the record, or tied with the record. He could break a tie there with Richard Petty if he were to lead at EchoPark Speedway this weekend. I saw that this morning.
Okay, very cool.
Now, Atlanta has held 2 races a year from 1960 to 2010, except in 1961 when there were 3 races held, and then 1 race a year from 2011 to 2020. And then they returned to 2 races in 2021. Beginning in 2023, both Atlanta races were shortened to the now 400 miles. And the pass for the win, as I kind of mentioned, came in the final 2 laps in 6 of the last 7 races at the new Atlanta, or reconfigured Atlanta, and on the final lap in 4 of the last 6 races. Are you getting excited for this race yet? 4 of the 8 races under the new Atlanta ended under caution.
Ford's qualifying dominance at Atlanta. I will say Ford has won the pole for all 6 races with qualifying at the new Atlanta. So I would watch and see if that's broken this week when they do their qualifying runs. Is it going to be another Ford, or is somebody going to break through? Ford also only has 2 wins despite winning the pole for each with qualifying. So even though they're winning the pole, they're not necessarily winning the race.
So breaking that down, you got Joey Logano for Team Penske that picked it up in the spring of 23. It was Eric Almirola for Stewart-Haas Racing, who was a Ford at that time in the fall. Then in 24, you had Michael McDowell from Front Row Motorsports. Sweet, because he did it again in the fall. Then you go back to Team Penske in 25, but they split it up amongst teammates. Ryan Blaney had the pole in February and Joey Logano in the midsummer race.
All right. Ford is really good at qualifying at the new Atlanta. And this kind of gives you some of the details about that. In 23, from March and July, they had 8 Fords started in the top 10 in both of those races. 8 Fords swept the top 10 spots in the spring race and only 6 in the fall race. In 24, 7 Fords started in the top 10 in both the spring and the fall races. 2 of those Fords in the spring race swept the top 10 spots, and 5 of those cars swept those top 10 spots in the fall race. And then going to 2025, the spring race had 9 Fords starting in the top 10. That's pretty impressive. And in the fall race, it was 8 Fords in that top 10. For the spring race, 5 of those guys swept the top 10 spots. And then in the fall race, 8 cars swept those spots. No qualifying happened in 2022. I'm suspecting that was because of weather.
And what's really impressive there is, except for that one where they only had 2 sweeping the top 2 spots, everything else was 50% or above in those top 10. But
yes,
we're talking about then the wins and lap leading performance. They can get up front. Now, Ford won 8 of the last 10 stages at Atlanta, so they're running up front, and they led more laps than Chevrolet and Toyota combined in each of the last 6 races. But you got to lead that last lap.
Yes, that's the most important lap. Now, laps led by Ford versus Chevrolet and Toyota at Atlanta since the reconfiguration. The more recent stats last year between February and June, in February, they led 195 laps. In June, they led 132. Then in February, Toyota and Chevrolet led 71 laps in the spring race, 128 in that June race. Going down the stats here, the high on this list is the spring race of 23, where they had 221 laps led. And the high on the Chevrolet and Toyotas actually goes to March of 22, when they led 274 laps. When we look at the other side of the equation, you've got the lowest number of laps that Ford led was in July of 22 at 18. And then the lowest number of laps led by Toyota and Chevrolet were 39 laps in March of 2023. So kind of interesting there.
So all that is important and sets up for success, but success is really determined by winning, and that's Hendrick Motorsports. They've won 4 of the 8 races on the newly configured Atlanta Motor Speedway, which is now EchoPark. William Byron with 2 and Chase Elliott 2. So that's who won in 22, both races, Byron and Elliott for Hendrick Motorsports. Penske does have Joey Logano in 23 in the spring race. The midsummer race was William Byron for HMS. Then this is one to remember. Daniel Suarez in 25. That was a 3-wide racing. That was a Chevrolet for Trackhouse Racing, but Joey Logano came back with Team Penske in the fall. Then it was Christopher Bell. Toyota got in there in 23. I'm sorry, in 25 in this spring race, the February race, and that was Christopher Bell with Joe Gibbs Racing and Chase Elliott in the fall.
Okay, so there you have the breakdown of the most recent winners on the newly reconfigured Atlanta. Now, Christopher Bell led only the final lap in that win at Atlanta in February. That's the fewest for an Atlanta race winner since September of 1961, when David Pearson did it. The race winner didn't lead for the first time until after lap 166 in 4 of the last 5 Atlanta races, and the driver leading the most laps won the first 3 races at the reconfigured Atlanta, but has only one top 10 finish in the last 5 races there. So an interesting pattern that occurred there with the new reconfiguration.
And we'll break that pass for the win in the final laps. There are 6 of the last 7 races. You can see there all those boxes highlighted is 1 or 2 laps. Chase Elliott did it with 2 laps to go over Corey LaJoie in 22. Joey Logano in 23 took it from Brad Keselowski with 1 to go. The only high number there, William Byron took the lead from AJ Allmendinger with 19 laps to go in the July race in 23. Suarez over Ryan Blaney was with 1 lap to go in 24, and Joey Logano from Daniel Suarez was with 2 laps to go in the fall. And then last year's 2 races, Christopher Bell took it from Kyle Larson with 1 to go in February, and in June it was Chase Elliott from Brad Keselowski with 1 to go. And what I see here though is a lot of those names were the same, either the one that took the lead or the one they took it from. A lot of the same names popping up. So again, when Sharon and Taz do their fantasy reports, that's the name that's going to become names that are going to be coming up.
Yes, indeed. And I will say, if you're not excited for these Atlanta races coming up yet, you should be, because there is a lot to look forward to here with these stats. This section, we're going to talk about the restart position of the race winner after their final pit stop. So in 22, the spring race, William Byron was second. On his pit stop, he took 2 right tires. In the fall, or summer, I guess it would be July, Chase Elliott was second and also took 2 rights, as did Joey Logano in the spring race. He was actually 13th and took 2 rights on his last stop. Also in 23, in the summer race, it was William Byron. He was 15th, taking 2 right tires. So those 4 races, it was all 2 right tires on their final pit stop. Starting in 24, that changed a little bit. In the spring race, Daniel Suarez was 11th. He took fuel only on his last pit stop, as did Joey Logano, who was 16th in that fall race on his before the restart position at the end of the race. Now, coming to 2025, again, in the spring race, Christopher Bell was 13th. He took fuel only on the pit stop. But back to 2 right tires for Chase Elliott in the summer race. He was 7th during that before that last restart. So kind of interesting progression there. Every race winner on the new Atlanta took either 2 tires or fuel only on their final pit stop.
Yeah, when we look at that, part of that is the new configuration was the unique pit road challenges. And I know we talked about this in the truck preview, but I'm going to hit it real quick here. That entrance to pit road was extended to the end of the backstretch for the spring 2023 race, making it 3,900 feet, the longest of all tracks. Now, here's where the tricky part comes in. Pit road speed is 90 miles per hour on that backstretch to the beginning of what was the traditional pit road. Then it changes to 45 for the remainder of pit road. So there's 2 parts to this pit road, if you will. So it takes 39 seconds plus your pit stop to make a green flag pit stop. And that's the largest time loss on any track. There's only been 1 green flag pit cycle with this new dual pit road speeds, with the field taking fuel only, and that was stage 2 in the spring of 2024. That's where we saw that fuel only stops. And there's been 28 speeding penalties at Atlanta since this pit road extension in 2023, and that is the most of all tracks over that time. And although we talked a couple things about the longest, they have the shortest. The pit boxes are actually only 27 feet 6 inches long, and that is tied for the shortest pit box. So add another degree of difficulty to this challenge.
Yes, indeed. That's why we see the penalties we see at Atlanta. Now, some recent pit road issues. Speaking of that, here we go. Let's start with June of 2025, just last year. There were 7 speeding penalties. Lap 46, the number 20 pushes the 23 into the grass, exiting his stall. And on lap 88, the number 45 penalty for driving through too many pit boxes while running in 3rd place. That was the June race. In the February race, there were 6 speeding penalties. Lap 64, the number 48 and the number 2 made contact on pit road. Also on lap 64, the pit sequence, the number 6 was caught removing equipment from their box. And on lap 85, the number 11 penalty for driving through too many pit boxes. In September 24, there were 10 speeding penalties, including 2 playoff drivers. Lap 116, the number 45 and 77 made contact on pit road. And on lap 178, the number 2 and number 9, the number 22 and 99 all made contact on pit road. In February of 24, it was 14 speeding penalties. I see we keep increasing, it seems. Lap 135, the number 24 and 34 both spin attempting to enter pit road. So that tells you just how tricky this pit road entrance is. In July of 23, lap 23, the number 34 hits and spins the number 19. And also on lap 63, the pit sequence, number 11 had an equipment interference penalty, and the number 20 was removing equipment, and the 24 had a safety violation. In March of 23, lap 64, the number 54 had to back up. The number 3 was slow, leaving his box. And the number 1, lap 121, the number 3 nearly misses pit road. And on lap 195, the number 77 hits the number 11, leaving his pit box. The number 1 got pushed into the grass. So there's a lot of things that can happen on pit road here at EchoPark Speedway.
Yeah, now I'm not just excited for the racing, but also watching what happens on pit road. That's part of it. Now, with this reconfiguration, Atlanta or EchoPark Speedway has become what they consider a drafting style track. And when we look at the dominance patterns, Team Penske won at least once on a drafting track in 12 straight seasons from 2014 to 2025. And that is an ongoing streak, and I believe up there for a record. The driver leading the most laps has won only one of the 17 drafting style tracks. And here's where I mentioned this earlier. Logano led in the last 19 drafting tracks, and that is tied for the all-time record with Richard Petty. So he could break that this weekend. Now, we have had 10 different drivers winning on the last 10 drafting style tracks or races. I see that being broken this weekend as a repeat winner, but we'll get to that. Each of the last 7 drafting tracks have had a last lap pass for the win, and that is the longest ever streak on drafting style tracks.
Now, the last 7 drafting track races were won with a last lap pass. That's the longest ever streak. And that's why I think a lot of people are so excited for this track. Just at Daytona, Tyler Reddick took the lead from Carson Hocevar in that last lap. Last year in the fall at Talladega, Chase Briscoe overtook Bubba Wallace. In August of 25 at Daytona, it was Ryan Blaney overtaking Cole Custer at the front. In June of 25 at Atlanta, Chase Elliott overtook Brad Keselowski. And in April of 25 at Talladega, it was Austin Cindric over Ryan Preece. Now we go to just last year. They are both February. At Atlanta in February, Christopher Bell took it over Kyle Larson. And on Daytona in February, it was William Byron taking that lead from Austin Cindric. So super speedways, this is kind of the excitement of racing at those types of tracks, is that last lap pass for the win.
And I do like that we see a little bit more variety as far as names, but still some regulars up there. Now, laps led in the NG, and that stands for the next gen car. Again, we got to kind of look at that as this next gen car is rather recent, 25 races. Leading that category, Team Penske, 1,409 laps led.
Wow.
Cut that in half, you get down to Hendrick Motorsports at only 741. Then Joe Gibbs Racing at 579, Roush Fenway Keselowski 416, and Trackhouse Racing 347. When we look at the drivers, then they're going to come from obviously those organizations. Joey Logano at the top at 679, Austin Cindric at 400, Ryan Blaney 300, William Byron 269, Chase Elliott 259, Brad Keselowski at 258. 3 of them in blue because that's what leads to Team Penske's domination.
No, the most drafting track wins by active drivers. And Brad Keselowski is at the top of this list with 7. Now, that could change this weekend. You got to tune in to see. what happens, because right behind him is Joey Logano at 6. There are 3 drivers at 5 with William Byron, Denny Hamlin, and Ryan Blaney, and they want to push their numbers up at this track. Chase Elliott and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. both have 4 wins.
And we hit on this already. Again, the most consecutive races led, Richard Petty and Joey Logano leading that with the 19. Joey Logano's streak is currently active, looking to become the all-time leader. Kyle Busch is 3rd with 18. David Pearson with 16. Joey Logano, another one that had done it at 15 in a row back in 2019 to 2022. And then Cale Yarborough also with 15.
All right. So Joey Logano's got a lot to think about this weekend. Okay, next up we have Atlanta statistical leaders and their performance. Best at the refrigerated Atlanta. Joey Logano, William Byron, Chase Elliott both have 2. They won 6 of the 8 on the reconfigured track. Just those 3 drivers. Laps led, Joey Logano leads there at 333. Average finish, that's Chase Elliott's domain at 9.14. Top 5s, there's a couple of drivers here. Daniel Suarez and Ryan Blaney both have 4 top 5s in those 8 races. And top 10s, Ryan Blaney is your leader there with 6.
And to break down a couple of those categories, Chase Elliott's best average finish 9.14, the only one under 10. Ryan Blaney's at 10.88. AJ Allmendinger at 11.25. Carson Hocevar, 11.75. Kyle Busch, 13.25. Daniel Suarez at 13.88. And Ross Chastain at 14.13. And that's with 3 or more starts. When we look at the 8 races on the reconfigured track, laps led, we mentioned Joey Logano at the top, 333. Austin Cindric at 205. Everybody else below 200. William Byron, 179. Chase Elliott, 166. And then just over 100. Ross Chastain, 117. Brad Keselowski, 114. And Ryan Blaney just over at 107.
All right. Next up, we have most laps led in the next-gen car at Atlanta in 8 races. Team Penske tops that list at 645. Then it's Hendrick Motorsports. It drops down to 422. Joe Gibbs Racing drops into below 200 at 196. Roush Fenway at 177. Trackhouse Racing at 150. Front Row Motorsports comes in at 127. Now, Joey Logano and Austin Cindric rank 1st and 2nd among drivers in laps led. And here we've got it, stage winners on the reconfigured track. At the top of the list is Austin Cindric at 4. Ryan Blaney not far behind at 3. Chase Elliott goes down to 2. And then the rest of these drivers are at 1 stage win. And that includes Brad Keselowski, another Team Penske driver, Joey Logano, William Byron, Michael McDowell, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, and Josh Berry. Team Penske has won 8 of 16 stages. So again, it just leads us right to that Team Penske dominance.
Well, and you would think that would put Ford at the top as far as manufacturer. However, when you look at it, start Chevrolet 129. They have no poles, 5 wins, 5 seconds, 21 top 5s, 39 top 10s, and then 738 laps led. Ford has 113 starts, but they got 6 poles, but only 2 wins, and then 3 seconds, 11 top 5s, 25 top 10s. But we've shown they're out front, leading 1,106 laps. Now, Toyota, you see the number there, only 58 starts. Again, don't quite have as many cars out there. No poles, 1 win, no seconds, 8 top 5s, 16 top 10s, and they're down at 238 laps led. We talk about filling in that runner-up position in Atlanta, but no wins. Ross Chastain and Brad Keselowski each have 2 seconds each. Ryan Blaney with 1, as well as Carson Hocevar. So again, those are the ones you want to keep your eye on this weekend.
Now, accident statistics when close finishes, that's kind of interesting. The number of cars involved in accidents at Atlanta and the closest finishes in series history. Let's start with the cars involved. The highest on the list here is 36, and that was at the June race last year. That's amazing. And then the next closest I would say is that 32. Also, that was in the spring race of 24. Then you got in 22, it was 27, 26 also in the spring race in that same year. The fewest, 16 in the spring race of 23 and 17 in the fall race of 24. So you can see there's been a lot of cars involved in accidents there at Atlanta. For the closest finishes in series history, we'll look at Atlanta, which ranks fourth here. The top three drivers were within 7 1,000ths of a second, but the top two drivers were separated by 3 1,000ths of a second. So that was really, really close. The second Atlanta race on this list goes back to 01 in March, and that was at 6 1,000ths of a second between the first and second driver. Kansas holds the closest margin of victory here, and that was in May of 24 at 1 1,000th of a second. Talladega and Darlington are tied at that 2 1,000ths of a second. Some really tight finishes here.
And you highlighted that one of 2024 between the top three. The closest first to third since 2007, Atlanta being that 7 1,000ths of a second. You got to go back, and all the others are at Talladega. First to third, 0.025, 0.039, 0.059, and 0.061. So again, that tells you how close that one at Atlanta was. And that was the one I mentioned with Daniel Suarez, was absolutely amazing.
Yes. Now tell me you're not excited about Atlanta.
That's right. Keep getting excited.
I won't believe it, because you got to be excited about Atlanta. Okay, let's talk about some of the storylines heading into Atlanta. Ryan Blaney is at the top of the list here. He finished top 10 in 6 of the last 7 races at Atlanta, but unfortunately was involved in an accident on lap 57 just last June. He ended up finishing in 40th place. I remember that. I had such high hopes for him at Atlanta, and that incident really put him in a bad situation there. Also, Kyle Busch finished top 10 in 5 of his 6 races at Atlanta, with Richard Childress racing, his most at a track since moving to that number 8 car. Kyle Larson has failed to finish 5 of the last 8 races at Atlanta because of accidents. That's the most of all drivers, so not a lucky track for Kyle Larson. 3 of Kyle Larson's 4 top 5 finishes on drafting tracks came in the last 8 races, however. And Carson Hocevar was the number 1 ranked passer in each Atlanta race last season. He totaled 225 on-track passes between those 2 races, but yet he failed to lead a lap in either of those races. So he can get everybody passed except for that top spot. Now, the longest active streak of top 10 finishes at Atlanta is 2. That's amazing. And that's Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Carson Hocevar. That's kind of amazing.
Tough track. Yeah, tough track. But we do have Ryan Blaney when we look at his finishes on this reconfiguration. Going back to 2022, in the spring, he was 17th, and he brushed the wall on the last lap while running in the top 5. So he was there. In the fall, he was 5th. Then looking at 23, he had a speeding penalty, but still managed to finish 7th. In the fall, he finished 9th. And that was after he pitted on stage 2, fell to 19th, and then didn't fully recover before the rain arrived. And in 2024, he was part of that 3-wide finish. He finished 2nd, 0.003 behind Daniel Suarez. In the fall, he was involved in a crash on lap 206, but still finished 3rd. And in 2025, the spring race here, he finished 4th, even after a spin on lap 234. And then, as Sharon mentioned, he was involved in a lap 57 crash in the fall. And that one he didn't recover at all, finishing 40th.
Okay, now we'll look at Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson. Kyle Busch's most top 10s at a track since joining RCR. He has a total of 5 at Atlanta, 4 at Darlington, 3 at Phoenix, COTA, and the Chicago Street Race, and then 2 at Daytona, Sonoma, Kansas, Las Vegas, Michigan. So some interesting stats there for Kyle Busch. And then for Kyle Larson, the new Atlanta numbers in 8 starts. He has 0 poles, wins, and seconds, but he does have 1 top 5, 1 top 10. He has 5 DNFs. That's how unlucky this track is for poor Kyle Larson. Last lap finish, 3. He did manage to make those. Laps led, only 34 laps led, and his average finish is an astounding. It's so low, you would never guess this for Kyle Larson, 24.9. He did, however, finish 3rd just last February. That's a year ago. So we'll see what he does this week at Atlanta or EchoPark Speedway.
And that's the good thing, is it is at least on an upward trend. And again, we're going to break this down into Larson's worst tracks in the next gen car era. And these are active tracks. You mentioned his average finish of Atlanta, 24.9, is actually 3rd. Iowa, it's highest at 31.0. Charlotte is 25.3. Then below Atlanta is COTA at 23 and Daytona at 20.9. And those range in starts from 2 starts at Iowa up to as many as 8 and 9 at Atlanta and Daytona. When we look at those 2 drivers who have finished in the top 10 in both Atlanta races last year, Carson Hocevar and Ricky Stenhouse, 2nd and 10th for Hocevar last year, and 5th and 6th for Stenhouse. So Stenhouse a little more consistent, right in the middle. And those are the 2 races with the longest active top 10 streak here.
All right. Now, NASCAR Insights gives us these performance data and NASCAR Insight at drafting tracks since 2025. Okay, the rank, passing, defense, and restarts. I guess number 1 for passing is Chase Elliott. Number 1 at defense is Joey Logano, and also in restarts. Number 2 in these stats, Joey Logano in passing, Austin Cindric in defense, and Chase Elliott. Then you've got Christopher Bell, 3rd in passing. Christopher Buescher is 3rd in defense, and Tyler Reddick 3rd in restarts. I'm just going to do the top 5 here. Brad Keselowski is 4th in passing, Bubba Wallace 4th in defense, and also in restarts. Bubba Wallace is 5th, though, in passing, Chase Elliott 5th in defense, and Kyle Larson 5th in restarts. Some of the other names that we haven't already mentioned that are 6 through 10, Todd Gilliland, Eric Jones, Ross Chastain. Those guys are in that top 10 long for passing. Let me list all of these guys. Todd Gilliland, Eric Jones, Kyle Larson, and Ross Chastain, along with Kyle Busch. 6th through 10th for defense is Josh Berry, Brad Keselowski, Ryan Blaney, and Christopher Bell. And on restarts, it's Chris Buescher, Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Riley Herbst, and William Byron.
And that was at all drafting tracks since 2025. When you look at just Atlanta, we mentioned on the offensive side, the passing, it's Carson Hocevar, then Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but you also got Brad Keselowski, John Hunter Nemechek, Chase Elliott, Ty Gibbs, Alex Bowman, Todd Gillen, AJ Allmendinger, and Tyler Reddick. When you're talking about playing defense, that goes back to, I think, Ryan Newman, toughest to pass, right? You got Austin Cindric, Josh Berry, Joey Logano, William Byron, Tyler Reddick, your top 5. Then Blaney, Keselowski, Elliott, Larson, and Wallace. On the restarts here at Atlanta specifically, it's William Byron leading the way over teammate Alex Bowman. Then Chase Briscoe, Joey Logano, and Chris Buescher. Your bottom 5 there, Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Tyler Reddick, Ty Gibbs, and Kyle Larson. And those are, the 3 aspects. You got to be able to make passes, prevent passes. Restarts is a big one.
Yes, it is. Well, okay, just so you know, coming up on Friday, Taz and I are going to do the fantasy report, and we'll give you the drivers to keep your eye on. But this is kind of a preview of that, if you will, with who's hot and who's not in going into Atlanta. We'll also give you sleeper drivers to consider. Let's go ahead and get started with some of the hot drivers to keep an eye on. Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott. Let's start with Ryan Blaney. 6 top 10s in the last 7 EchoPark races. He's led in 7 of the last 8 races at EchoPark. He started in the first 3 rows for every race on the new track, and he's earned the most points in 3 of the last 5 races at EchoPark Speedway. Chase Elliott, also hot. He's won 2 of the last 6 EchoPark races. The average finish, we talked about it, it's the top 9.14 at EchoPark. Since the reconfigurations, that's the best of all drivers. One of 4 drivers to lead over 150 laps at EchoPark since the reconfiguration, and he finished on the lead lap in all 7 of his EchoPark starts since the reconfiguration. As far as drivers that are cold, that you probably want to stay away from, we've talked about it. Kyle Larson has no luck at Atlanta. Only 1 top 10 finish in the 8 races since EchoPark reconfiguration. He's failed to finish 5 races at the track due to accidents. That's the most of all drivers, and his average finish is incredible at 24.8 at EchoPark. The sleeper picks. And we talked about these guys too. And when we were talking about it, I was thinking, those are my sleepers for Atlanta. Carson Hocevar, runner-up at EchoPark last February, his best Cup Series finish. He finished top 10 in both races at the track last year and was leading at the right flag in the Daytona 500 prior to the last lap. As far as Ricky Stenhouse Jr., all 4 Cup Series wins were on drafting tracks. He has 4 top 10s at EchoPark in his most, and that is the most in the next-gen car, his most in the next-gen car. Top 10 in 4 of the last 5 races at EchoPark, and top 10 in 5 of the last 8 stages at EchoPark. So those are guys to keep on your sleeper list or your garage picks for this weekend.
Well, and I'm going to throw Kyle Busch in there, and I'm not sure whether he falls under the hot or under the sleeper, being that he went winless last year and has had some struggles with Richard Childress Racing in the last year. I don't know if he falls under the hot or sleeper, but I do believe he is one you definitely need to keep your eye on. We saw him take the pole at Daytona, so I think he's coming out of that slump.
I think so, and I'm glad you brought that up, Jay. I believe that's it, Jay, for our Cup Series preview.
And I kind of already gave it. I'm gonna put a little bit of faith and rub on Kyle Busch this weekend in Atlanta. He was involved in that closest 3-wide finish. We've seen he's kind of coming out of the slump, if you will. So I look for Kyle Busch this weekend at Atlanta.
And I'm going to nod my tip over to Ryan Blaney. I would like to see him.
No,
Are
sorry. I was shocked. No, that was a fake shock, by the way.
I know. He knows. I'm a big Ryan Blaney fan. So, yeah, I'm going to tip my hat toward Ryan Blaney for this weekend at Atlanta. And I hope he comes through with this year for sure. So you've got our picks. Go ahead.
And there again, no, I was going to say there again, if you're putting money on it, he's under the hot list. We've shared his stats and his history. That is a very solid pick. So, yeah, that was pure shock and happens to be one of Sharon's favorite drivers. So that just adds to it. That's the icing on the cake, right?
That just gives me the encouragement to boldly go forward with Ryan. Okay, so there you have it, our NASCAR Cup Series preview for Atlanta. And I will tell you, watch for more because we have I put out the Truck Series preview this morning. I'm working on the Xfinity Series preview. We'll put that out between today and tomorrow, as well as the Cup Series preview. Watch for that probably on Friday. And then along with our fantasy report that will be coming out on Friday as well. And then on the other side of the weekend, Jay and I are going to be back here with our Hot Topic Sound Off from Atlanta. I'm sure there's going to be some topics to discuss, Jay.
Man, I'd hate to call him out, but being that he's one of the sleepers, for good or bad, we could be talking about Carson Hocevar come Monday.
Or Ricky Stenhouse, for that matter.
Or Ricky Stenhouse. There you go.
Okay, now I want to also tell you about some other shows that we did earlier this week. Of course, Jay and I did our Hot Topic Sound Off from Daytona on Monday night. On Tuesday, we did the preview. We did an interview with Robbie Keneally, and that was really great because Robbie Keneally is the only ARCA West driver that went through the road to Daytona and were qualified enough that he could race that race in the ARCA Menard Series this past weekend. He talks about that experience, the highs and the lows, and it was a really good interview by Sal Segala. So take a look at that. And then on Wednesday, it was the Race Chat Live guys. We're talking Chris Crichton, Taz Taylor, and CJ. We're all available to talk about some of the latest news stories in headlines this week. And you can hear their thoughts about those news stories. And then all of our previews for the Truck Series, the Xfinity Series, and the Cup Series, all racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway this week, and our previews.
I haven't gotten to watch the Race Chat Live yet this week. Didn't catch it, get home in time last night, so I'll have to catch it. But I just want to know, do I need the popcorn? Their first episode, they had popcorn while they were doing it. I need to know if I got to have popcorn.
I don't think it's quite to that degree, but there was some really good conversation. They really brought out some good points about some of the news stories that are out there. So it's definitely worth the listen. We have it up, by the way. We figured out how to stream simultaneously between Facebook and YouTube. So that's kind of cool that we're able to do that now.
Well, and hopefully that helps increase our viewership. I know we have gotten to 100 subscribers now. We thank you fans for tuning in, and thanking especially All Sports All Day for interaction during our hot topics. We want to hear from more of you.
Absolutely. And by the way, Jay, it is 102 subscribers that we now have.
I was just going to see if I could pull that up. So we got 2 more just since Monday. All right. Appreciate you fans.
So, yes, we are getting followers. I will say I'm able to follow the stats over on Facebook, and we are getting a lot of views over on Facebook. So I'm really happy about that. It doesn't show up in our YouTube stats, but just know people are watching what's being said here at FM for Racing Radio. So with that, Jay, we do want to say thank you to everybody who's tuning in and watching our shows. We do appreciate it. If you like what we're providing, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel here at YouTube or even on our Facebook page. We do have a Fan for Racing blog and radio Facebook page. So look us up over there as well. And we really appreciate everybody for taking the time to hear what we have to say.
We do indeed. And again, please interact. You may have a differing opinion, and that's okay. We enjoy that as well, because sometimes it actually makes us think, hey, maybe we're looking at it a little bit differently. So it helps us evolve, if you will.
It certainly does. So take care, everybody, and we will see you in our next videos. Take care now.